My friends, today I want to speak to you about a reality that may seem dark but is incredibly important to recognize. There are those who may enter our lives under the guise of friends, companions, even mentors, but some of them carry an energy that leads us away from our purpose, away from the light, and away from the good things that God has in store for us. Let's begin by understanding this: not everyone in our lives is there to lift us up. Some come with a darkness, a destructive spirit that aims to drain and deter us. They are subtle, often appearing as friends, family, even confidants. Yet their actions, their words, and the impact they leave behind tell a different story. It is our responsibility to discern the difference. The first sign you may notice in someone with a demonic influence is that they bring a dark influence into your life. Instead of words of encouragement and truth, they speak in ways that lead you away from wisdom and peace. They tempt you with bitterness, resentment, and even despair. Be vigilant, for these words carry a poison that taints the purity of your heart. Secondly, look at the chaos and confusion they bring. Wherever they go, they stir up arguments, misunderstandings, and unrest. Instead of harmony, they leave a trail of strife. They thrive in turmoil, for this is where they draw their strength. The third sign, my friends, is a lack of accountability. This type of person will never admit when they're wrong. They manipulate situations to deflect blame, always presenting themselves as innocent, faultless, or misunderstood. This is not the humility that the Spirit desires in us. And then there are their deceptive words. Such a person twists the truth, speaking in half-truths or outright lies, subtly manipulating others to serve their own ends. They seek to deceive, for deception is the weapon of the enemy. Listen to their words carefully, for it is said that by their words you will know them. Another sign of this dark influence is that they leave you drained physically, emotionally, and spiritually. After spending time with them, you feel empty and exhausted. They do not replenish or refresh, but rather take away from the light within you. And beware, for they harbor destructive intent. Their advice, their encouragement leads you down paths that harm rather than build you up. They suggest things that make you lose sight of your true purpose, leading you to decisions and places that take you far from your destiny. Finally, they bring a persistent fear into your life. They plant seeds of doubt, intimidation, and insecurity that hinder your growth and bind you in fear. They discourage you from pursuing your calling, from trusting in the greatness within you, and from relying on the Creator. So, my friends, I urge you to be discerning, to recognize these signs, and to hold fast to the light within you. Guard your spirit, stand firm in your purpose, and remember that not all who walk with you are meant to lead you towards your destiny. Protect your heart, and may you find strength to surround yourself with those who lift you higher. Thank you. Dark influence is a concept that transcends the physical and speaks directly to the spiritual and emotional dimensions of our lives. It is an unseen force that manifests through individuals who carry a destructive spirit, whether knowingly or unknowingly. This influence is not always immediately apparent. In fact, it often disguises itself in familiarity, charm, or even the guise of support. But its effects are profound, leading us away from light, truth, and purpose. To truly understand dark influence, we must delve into its manifestations and recognize its capacity to steer us away from what is good, true, and life-giving. Dark influence operates subtly. It doesn't announce itself loudly or in ways that are immediately obvious. It might begin with small seeds of doubt planted in our minds, seeds that grow into full-blown forests of negativity if we are not careful. It often comes in the form of negativity disguised as realism, cynicism cloaked as wisdom, or even critique presented as concern. This kind of influence seeps into our thoughts and emotions, clouding our judgment and leading us down paths that do not align with our true purpose. One of the ways dark influence manifests is through relationships that seem beneficial on the surface but are damaging at their core. Consider the friend who always seems to highlight your flaws but never celebrates your strengths, or the colleague who subtly undermines your achievements while pretending to support your efforts. These individuals might not outwardly declare harmful intentions, but their actions and words chip away at your confidence, your peace, and even your sense of self-worth. They carry an energy that diminishes rather than uplifts, often leaving you doubting yourself and your ability to navigate life's challenges. Dark influence thrives in environments of vulnerability. It often takes root when we are at our lowest, when we are grieving, confused, or uncertain. During these moments, our defenses are down, and we are more susceptible to voices that lead us astray. These voices may not be loud or overt. They might whisper doubts into our ears, encouraging us to question the goodness of our journey or the integrity of those around us. They tell us that we are not enough, that the world is against us, or that the only way forward is through compromise and surrender of our values. These are the voices that seek to derail us from our divine calling. Another aspect of dark influence is its ability to normalize negativity. Those under its sway often project their own struggles, bitterness, and unresolved issues onto others. Their words and actions are not just a reflection of who they are, but also a deliberate attempt to pull others into their turmoil. They might make you feel that your dreams are too big, your vision is too bold, or your faith is misplaced. This influence is not about honest critique or constructive feedback. It is about limiting you, keeping you bound to a smaller version of yourself. Perhaps one of the most telling signs of dark influence is its ability to overshadow joy and hope. When you are around someone under this influence, you might notice that your moments of happiness feel fleeting or diminished. Instead of celebrating your victories, they may downplay them, turning the conversation back to their struggles or dismissing your success as luck or coincidence. This is not mere envy. It is an active attempt to keep you from fully embracing the joy and gratitude that comes with achieving your goals. Dark influence is also highly manipulative. It often masquerades as care or concern, making it difficult to recognize at first. For example, someone might say, "I'm just looking out for you," while planting doubts about your decisions or steering you away from opportunities. They might frame their negativity as wisdom or their discouragement as practicality. This manipulation can be particularly damaging because it erodes trust not just in the individual but in your own instincts and abilities. This influence is draining. Spending time with someone under its sway can leave you feeling exhausted, both emotionally and spiritually. It's as if they carry a weight that they transfer onto you, leaving you burdened and depleted. You might notice that after interacting with them, you feel less motivated, less confident, and more uncertain about your path. This is because dark influence feeds on your energy, drawing strength from your light while dimming it in the process. One of the most dangerous aspects of dark influence is its ability to distort truth. Those operating under this influence often twist facts or present partial truths to serve their agenda. They might exaggerate problems, downplay solutions, or present a skewed version of reality that suits their narrative. This can lead to confusion and mistrust, not just towards them but towards others in your life as well. It creates a ripple effect of doubt and disconnection, isolating you from sources of genuine support and guidance. Dark influence also manifests in a refusal to celebrate others' growth and success. Instead of rejoicing in your progress, someone under this influence might belittle it, compare it to their own perceived shortcomings, or outright ignore it. This lack of acknowledgement is not just a passive oversight, it is an intentional act that seeks to minimize your achievements and keep you from realizing your full potential. Recognizing dark influence requires spiritual discernment and emotional awareness. It is not about labeling people as inherently bad or evil, but about understanding the energy they bring into your life and how it affects you. It's about recognizing patterns of negativity, manipulation, and harm, and choosing to protect yourself from their effects. This protection does not mean rejecting or condemning others outright, but rather setting boundaries that safeguard your peace, purpose, and well-being. Ultimately, dark influence is about diversion. It seeks to divert you from your calling, your joy, and your alignment with truth and light. It might come in subtle forms, a word here, an action there, but its impact can be profound if left unchecked. That is why it is crucial to remain vigilant, to surround yourself with voices that encourage, uplift, and inspire, and to trust in the power of light to overcome darkness. In a world where dark influence can be pervasive, the key to overcoming it lies in your connection to truth and purpose. Stay grounded in your values, seek wisdom and guidance from sources of light, and remember that you have the power to choose what and who you allow into your life. The presence of dark influence is a reality, but so too is the strength to recognize it, confront it, and rise above it. Chaos and confusion are powerful tools of distraction that can derail us from our purpose, cloud our vision, and disturb our peace. When someone brings chaos and confusion into your life, they create a whirlwind of disorder that affects not only your external environment but also your internal state of mind. This is not the same as experiencing occasional misunderstandings or disagreements which are natural in any relationship. Instead, it's a persistent and destructive pattern that leads to mental, emotional, and even spiritual disarray. These people seem to thrive on turmoil, intentionally or unintentionally introducing situations that leave you feeling unsettled, anxious, and unclear. Imagine for a moment trying to navigate a dense fog. Every step forward feels uncertain, and you struggle to see what lies ahead. This is the effect of chaos and confusion in our lives. It causes us to question our decisions, doubt our path, and lose sight of our purpose. Individuals who bring this influence are like agents of disorder. They create an atmosphere where clarity is absent, where you are constantly questioning yourself, and where peace is out of reach. This environment of confusion diverts your focus, steals your joy, and leaves you exhausted. Chaos and confusion often show up subtly at first. It might begin with little instances of miscommunication or misunderstandings. You find yourself constantly trying to clarify, explain, or correct situations, but the confusion never seems to end. No matter how clear you think you've been, they always seem to misinterpret your words or forget your instructions. Over time, these small disruptions accumulate, creating a steady undercurrent of frustration and unease. You may begin to feel as though you're always walking on eggshells, wondering what might go wrong next. These individuals tend to stir up conflict between people, either directly or indirectly. They might make offhand comments that seem innocent but carry a hidden agenda, planting seeds of doubt and suspicion among friends, family members, or coworkers. Instead of building bridges, they create divides, causing people to question each other's motives or intentions. This constant friction creates a sense of disunity and mistrust, leaving everyone feeling defensive and on edge. It's as if they thrive on the disharmony they create, feeding off the emotional tension in the environment. Their words and actions often don't align, adding to the sense of instability. They might say one thing and do another, leaving you uncertain about where you truly stand with them. They may promise support or understanding, but when the time comes, they're nowhere to be found, or they act in ways that contradict their words. This inconsistency can be disorienting, as you're left guessing their true intentions and feeling as if you can't rely on them. Over time, this behavior chips away at your confidence, making you second-guess yourself and your decisions. A hallmark of chaos and confusion is its relentless nature. It's not a temporary phase or isolated incident, it's a constant presence, a recurring theme that weaves itself into your life. You may find yourself caught in a cycle where, just as one issue seems to be resolved, another arises. It's as though there's never a moment of true peace, always another crisis waiting to unfold. This kind of instability drains you both physically and emotionally. You become consumed by the chaos, spending more time and energy dealing with problems than pursuing your goals or focusing on what truly matters. Chaos and confusion can also cloud your judgment. When you're surrounded by constant disorder, it becomes difficult to see things clearly. Your focus shifts from long-term goals to immediate survival, from purpose-driven actions to reactive decisions. This shift disrupts your ability to make wise choices and undermines your sense of direction. You may find yourself compromising on values, sacrificing time, and investing energy in situations that don't serve your highest good, all because you're entangled in the confusion they've created. People who bring chaos and confusion rarely take responsibility for the disorder they cause. Instead, they project the blame onto others, making it seem as though the problem lies with you or other people. They may accuse you of being too sensitive or misinterpreting their actions, leaving you feeling invalidated and unsupported. This gaslighting tactic adds another layer to the confusion, making you doubt your perceptions and experiences. It's a way for them to evade accountability and keep you off balance, always questioning yourself rather than addressing the real source of the turmoil. Furthermore, chaos and confusion can deeply affect your inner peace. Peace is the foundation of a healthy, purposeful life, and without it, you are left feeling fragmented, restless, and ungrounded. When you're constantly dealing with turmoil, you have little space for reflection, gratitude, or growth. Your mind is consumed with solving problems and managing crises, leaving little room for personal development or spiritual connection. This lack of inner peace prevents you from fully engaging with life, limiting your potential and hindering your journey toward fulfillment. In relationships, the presence of chaos and confusion erodes trust. Trust is built on consistency, transparency, and reliability, all of which are absent when confusion reigns. Instead of feeling safe and supported, you feel isolated and insecure, unable to rely on the very people who are supposed to be in your corner. This breakdown of trust creates emotional distance as you begin to withdraw in self-protection. The relationship becomes strained, more about managing issues than building genuine connection and growth. One of the most insidious aspects of chaos and confusion is its ability to spread. It's not content to remain confined to one area of your life. Instead, it seeps into other areas, affecting your work, your relationships, and even your health. What begins as confusion in one relationship might soon manifest as stress at work or tension with family members. This influence acts like a virus, infecting every aspect of your life until it becomes difficult to tell where the chaos began and where it ends. To counteract the effects of chaos and confusion, you must cultivate a sense of discernment. Recognize the signs early, and be prepared to set boundaries that protect your peace and well-being. It's not about rejecting people outright, but about being intentional with your energy and time. Surround yourself with those who bring clarity, peace, and stability. Those who uplift rather than disrupt. Seek guidance from wise and grounded individuals who can help you navigate challenging situations without becoming ensnared in the confusion. In a world where chaos and confusion are ever present, finding clarity and peace is a conscious choice. Guard your mind, protect your spirit, and remember that you have the power to decide who and what you allow into your life. The presence of confusion is not inevitable. It is a signal to reevaluate, to realign, and to pursue the things that bring you closer to your true purpose. Lack of accountability is a deeply troubling trait, one that undermines trust, hinders personal growth, and damages relationships. When someone in your life refuses to take responsibility for their actions, they avoid the very foundation of integrity. They may deflect blame, make excuses, or shift the focus to others, anything to escape facing the consequences of their behavior. At first glance, these actions might seem like minor annoyances or temporary lapses in judgment, but over time, a persistent lack of accountability reveals itself as a pattern of self-deception, manipulation, and disregard for the well-being of others. One of the most telling signs of a lack of accountability is an individual's consistent unwillingness to admit when they are wrong. They may argue, deny, or even twist the facts to avoid acknowledging their role in a problem. This inability to accept fault is not only frustrating but also erodes the trust you have in that person. Accountability is a core component of healthy relationships, whether in friendships, family, or professional settings. When someone refuses to own up to their mistakes, they create an environment where others feel unsafe, mistrusting their words and doubting their intentions. People who lack accountability often excel at deflection. Instead of addressing their shortcomings, they are quick to point fingers, even at those who had no involvement in the situation. This deflection can take many forms, such as blaming the environment, societal expectations, or even their past experiences. While everyone has reasons for certain behaviors, someone with a genuine sense of accountability will own up to their mistakes and seek ways to improve. In contrast, those who lack accountability hide behind a wall of excuses and rationalizations. By doing so, they not only avoid responsibility, but also place an unfair burden on others to shoulder the blame for their actions. Another key aspect of this behavior is a refusal to engage in self-reflection. Self-reflection is essential for growth, allowing us to examine our actions, recognize areas for improvement, and become better versions of ourselves. However, those who refuse accountability are unwilling or unable to take this honest look at themselves. They resist feedback and criticism, viewing it as an attack rather than an opportunity to learn. This refusal to reflect on their actions keeps them trapped in a cycle of repeating the same mistakes, as they lack the insight to identify or correct harmful patterns. Without accountability, there is no genuine progress, only a continual repetition of past missteps. A lack of accountability also manifests in a disregard for the impact of their actions on others. When someone doesn't take responsibility for their behavior, they fail to acknowledge the hurt, inconvenience, or harm they may have caused. This disregard is often paired with a lack of empathy, as they are more focused on preserving their self-image than on understanding how their actions affect those around them. Over time, this insensitivity can lead to strained relationships, as those on the receiving end of their behavior feel unappreciated and disrespected. People who cannot take responsibility tend to be indifferent to the emotional labor others invest in maintaining the relationship, which leads to an imbalance that breeds resentment and discontent. In professional settings, a lack of accountability can be especially damaging. Teamwork relies on each member fulfilling their responsibilities and being willing to acknowledge mistakes when they occur. Someone who consistently avoids accountability disrupts this dynamic, forcing others to pick up the slack and deal with the fallout of their errors. This not only creates additional work for the team, but also undermines morale, as others feel unfairly burdened and unsupported. Over time, this behavior can erode the cohesion and trust within a team, making it difficult to achieve collective goals and creating an atmosphere of resentment and frustration. Manipulation often accompanies a lack of accountability. To avoid facing their mistakes, individuals may manipulate the situation, crafting narratives that cast them in a favorable light while vilifying others. They might appeal to people's emotions, using guilt or sympathy to shift the focus away from their actions. This manipulation is a way of evading responsibility, allowing them to control the narrative and avoid the discomfort of self-examination. In the long term, however, these tactics are unsustainable, as people begin to recognize the patterns of evasion and deceit, resulting in damaged relationships and lost credibility. People who lack accountability are also prone to make promises they cannot keep. They may offer apologies or assurances of change without any intention of following through. These empty promises give the illusion of accountability, but are ultimately a way to avoid dealing with the real issues at hand. Their words may sound sincere, but without action to back them up, these promises are meaningless. This cycle of broken promises wears down trust, as others realize that their words hold little value. It becomes clear that the individual is more concerned with pacifying the immediate situation than with making genuine, lasting change. The lack of accountability also creates a lack of boundaries, as people who refuse responsibility often do not respect the boundaries of others. They expect forgiveness and understanding without offering the same in return. They might invade personal space, make excessive demands, or expect others to prioritize their needs above all else. This lack of respect for boundaries shows a sense of entitlement, as they believe their actions should not be questioned or held to the same standards as those of others. This disregard for boundaries can leave others feeling taken advantage of, as they are constantly forced to accommodate the other person's needs and preferences. When accountability is absent, growth becomes stagnant. Self-improvement requires a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths and work through our flaws. Those who avoid accountability, however, sidestep this process, choosing comfort over growth. By refusing to acknowledge their role in negative situations, they deny themselves the opportunity to learn and evolve. This resistance to growth creates a form of arrested development, where they remain trapped in the same patterns, repeating the same mistakes without ever learning from them. Not only does this limit their personal potential, but it also hinders the quality of their relationships as others eventually grow weary of the cycle of blame and evasion. The effects of a lack of accountability extend beyond the individual. It affects the community and social circles around them. Family members, friends, and colleagues are all impacted by the refusal of one person to take responsibility for their actions. This behavior forces others to bear the emotional and practical consequences of their choices. It places an unfair burden on those who must navigate the resulting conflicts, clean up the messes, and deal with the fallout. This strain can lead to fractures in relationships as people grow resentful of the constant effort required to compensate for the other person's lack of accountability. At its core, the refusal to be accountable reveals a fear of vulnerability. Taking responsibility requires a level of humility and honesty, an acknowledgement that none of us are perfect. It demands a willingness to admit mistakes, apologize sincerely, and make amends. However, those who lack accountability often fear this vulnerability, viewing it as a weakness rather than a strength. They are more invested in preserving a facade of perfection than in developing true resilience. Ironically, this avoidance of vulnerability only leads to more insecurity, as they are constantly running from the truth, rather than embracing the growth that comes with self-honesty. A lack of accountability is a barrier to connection, growth, and peace. It disrupts relationships, hinders progress, and isolates individuals from the support systems they need. True accountability is not about perfection, it is about recognizing our humanity, understanding that mistakes are part of the journey, and being willing to learn from them. Embracing accountability leads to stronger relationships, deeper self-awareness, and a more fulfilling life, free from the burdens of blame and evasion. It's a path that requires courage and humility, but one that ultimately leads to a life of integrity and connection. Deceptive words have the power to mislead, manipulate, and cause harm in ways that can be difficult to detect. They are a potent tool in the arsenal of those who aim to distort reality, disguise motives, or influence others for selfish gain. Unlike outright lies, which are often more easily recognized and dismissed, deceptive words can blend truth with untruth, giving them a subtlety that makes them hard to detect. They can create confusion, sow seeds of doubt, and lead people away from their principles or desired outcomes without them even realizing it. People who use deceptive language are often skilled at playing with words, weaving statements that sound supportive, insightful, or even caring, yet carry hidden intentions. Those who wield deceptive words often present themselves as allies, confidants, or sources of guidance. They might seem trustworthy and knowledgeable, using language that aligns with your beliefs or values on the surface. But beneath this veneer lies a motive that is self-serving, rather than genuinely supportive. Their words might appear as constructive criticism, encouragement, or advice, but in reality, they are aimed at steering you toward a decision or perspective that benefits them rather than you. This type of deception is particularly dangerous because it appeals to the trust and goodwill people naturally extend to those they believe are on their side. Deceptive words can also exploit vulnerabilities, especially when someone is going through a challenging time. During periods of struggle or uncertainty, people are more likely to look to others for guidance, hoping for clarity and support. Those who use deceptive language capitalize on this openness by framing their words in ways that resonate with the listener's immediate needs or desires. They might make promises of support or offer solutions that sound ideal. But these promises are often empty, and the solutions serve their own ends. This creates a dynamic where the listener, eager for reassurance, accepts the words at face value, only to later find that they have been misled. Another common feature of deceptive words is their ambiguity. They often lack concrete details or commitments, allowing the speaker to evade accountability. For instance, someone might say, "I'll take care of it," or "I'll handle everything," without specifying how or when. These words create a false sense of security, as they give the impression that something will be done without actually committing to specific actions. When these vague promises fall through, the individual can deny responsibility, claiming that there was a misunderstanding or that circumstances changed. By keeping their statements open-ended, they avoid the need to follow through, leaving others disappointed or even betrayed. Deceptive words are also used to manipulate emotions, especially through flattery or false empathy. For example, someone might use insincere praise to gain favor or win trust, saying things like, "I've never met someone as talented as you," or "You're the only person who truly understands me." These statements are designed to make you feel special, unique, or appreciated, which can lower your guard and make you more receptive to their influence. However, this praise is often shallow, intended only to create a bond that serves their purposes. Once they have gained what they wanted, the praise disappears, leaving you wondering if any of it was genuine. False empathy is another tactic used by those with deceptive intentions. They might express understanding or sympathy for your struggles, but this empathy is often a means to an end. By showing empathy, they gain access to your trust and emotions, which they can then exploit to serve their own interests. They might say things like, "I know exactly how you feel," or "I'm here for you no matter what," but when it comes time to provide real support, they are nowhere to be found. This deception leaves a lasting impact, as it undermines your ability to trust not only them but also others who may genuinely care. Deceptive words often include subtle implications or innuendos designed to plant doubt or suspicion. For example, someone might say, "I've heard things about that person, but I don't want to get into it," leaving the listener with an uneasy feeling about a third party without providing any actual evidence or specifics. This tactic is particularly damaging because it plays on people's natural inclination to fill in gaps in information, often imagining the worst. These vague suggestions can lead to misunderstandings, conflict, or mistrust, all without the deceiver having to take responsibility for making an outright accusation. They create tension and division, all while maintaining an appearance of innocence or even concern. Another form of deception is selective truth-telling, where someone shares only parts of a story or leaves out key details to shape your perception. By presenting a carefully curated version of events, they control the narrative, influencing how you see people, situations, or choices. This approach is effective because it technically involves telling the truth, which makes it harder to accuse them of lying. However, by omitting certain facts, they lead you to conclusions that serve their agenda rather than giving you the full picture. Selective truth is a powerful tool in manipulation, as it appears honest on the surface, but is deeply dishonest in its intentions. People who use deceptive language are often adept at mirroring. They echo your own words, values, or goals back to you, creating the illusion of shared understanding or alignment. This mirroring technique fosters a sense of connection, as you feel that this person truly gets you. However, this agreement is often superficial, a strategy to make you more receptive to their influence. Once they have gained your trust, they can subtly guide you in directions you might not otherwise choose, all the while maintaining the appearance of supporting your interests. This is a form of deception that preys on our desire for connection and understanding, exploiting these needs to manipulate outcomes. Deceptive words are not always directed at others. They are often used by individuals to deceive themselves as well. They might use justification, denial, or rationalization to avoid facing uncomfortable truths about their behavior or motives. By framing their actions in ways that align with positive values or intentions, they shield themselves from self-reflection or accountability. For example, they might say, "I only did it to help," or "I had no other choice," even when their actions were motivated by self-interest. This self-deception allows them to maintain a positive self-image, even as they engage in behaviors that are harmful or dishonest. The effects of deceptive words are far-reaching, often causing emotional, relational, and even spiritual harm. When someone discovers that they have been deceived, it can lead to a deep sense of betrayal. Trust, once broken, is challenging to rebuild, as the individual must now question not only the deceiver's words but also their own judgment. This betrayal can lead to feelings of anger, sadness, and confusion, as the individual grapples with the realization that the person they trusted was not who they seemed. Over time, this erosion of trust can make it difficult to build healthy relationships, as the individual may become more guarded or skeptical. One of the most damaging aspects of deceptive words is their ability to create doubt within the listener. When someone is consistently exposed to deception, they may begin to doubt their perceptions, judgment, and even their sense of reality. This effect is particularly pronounced in situations where the deception is subtle or where the deceiver is a close friend, family member, or authority figure. Over time, this self-doubt can lead to a loss of confidence and a diminished sense of self-worth, as the individual feels they can no longer trust their own instincts or interpretations. To protect against deceptive words, it is essential to cultivate discernment and emotional awareness. Pay attention to consistency between words and actions, as genuine people tend to align what they say with what they do. Be cautious of those who frequently use vague or ambiguous language, who avoid providing details or commitments, and who rely heavily on flattery or emotional appeals. Building a strong sense of self-trust is also crucial, as it allows you to recognize and resist attempts at manipulation. Trusting yourself is the foundation for identifying deceit, as it empowers you to question things that feel off and to seek clarity when needed. In a world where words can be used to enlighten, uplift, or deceive, it's vital to be vigilant about what we accept as truth. Deceptive words may create temporary illusions, but they cannot stand against the power of clarity, integrity, and truth. When we learn to recognize these deceptive tactics, we empower ourselves to rise above manipulation, protect our peace, and nurture relationships that are grounded in honesty and mutual respect. Constant draining occurs when someone consistently depletes your energy, leaving you feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and emotionally spent. These individuals seem to draw from your resources, be they emotional, mental, or even physical, without giving anything meaningful in return. Their presence feels heavy, as if they bring with them a weight that presses on your spirit and diminishes your vitality. Over time, this draining effect can impact not only your mood but also your productivity, relationships, and overall well-being. The act of draining is not always overt or malicious. In many cases, it's subtle, taking place over time through repeated interactions. It can manifest as constant complaining, excessive demands for attention, or a persistent focus on negativity. These individuals often position themselves as needing your help, sympathy, or validation, creating a dynamic where you feel obligated to provide support even at the expense of your own needs. While offering support is natural and healthy in relationships, constant draining crosses the line when the relationship becomes one-sided, with one person perpetually taking and the other perpetually giving. People who drain you often have an uncanny ability to turn every conversation or situation back to themselves. No matter what you share, they find a way to shift the focus to their problems, experiences, or feelings. This self-centeredness can make you feel unheard and unappreciated, as your contributions to the conversation are minimized or dismissed. Over time, this dynamic can leave you feeling invisible, as if your presence in the relationship exists only to serve their needs. This lack of reciprocity is a hallmark of constant draining, as it reinforces a pattern where your energy is siphoned without any replenishment. Emotional draining can also stem from individuals who thrive on drama. These people seem to create or attract chaos wherever they go, often involving you in conflicts, crises, or emotionally charged situations. They might overreact to minor issues, escalate disagreements, or draw you into their personal struggles, making you feel as though you must help resolve their problems. This constant state of heightened emotion is exhausting, as it forces you to expend energy navigating their turmoil. Over time, you may find yourself feeling anxious or on edge, anticipating the next episode of drama they will bring into your life. Another form of constant draining involves those who rely heavily on others to make decisions or solve problems for them. These individuals often appear helpless, repeatedly seeking your guidance or approval for even the smallest matters. While it's natural to offer support and advice, this dependency becomes draining when it's excessive or unending. Instead of taking responsibility for their own choices, they place the burden on you, requiring your time, effort, and emotional investment to address issues that they could manage themselves. This dynamic not only drains your energy but also fosters a sense of frustration, as you realize that your involvement is enabling their unwillingness to grow or take initiative. Constant draining is not limited to overt behaviors. It can also occur through subtle, passive interactions. For example, someone might consistently exude negativity, expressing pessimism or cynicism in almost every situation. Their outlook can weigh heavily on you, as their comments and attitudes create an atmosphere of hopelessness or despair. Even if they don't directly ask for your energy, their negativity can seep into your own mindset, leaving you feeling drained simply from being around them. This is especially true when you care deeply for the person, as their unhappiness can feel like a problem you need to fix, even if it's beyond your control. In relationships, constant draining can take on more insidious forms, such as emotional manipulation. Draining individuals might use guilt, shame, or pity to keep you engaged, making you feel responsible for their well-being. They might say things like, "I don't know what I'd do without you," or "You're the only one who understands me," creating a sense of obligation that traps you in a cycle of giving. While these statements may seem flattering on the surface, they often mask a deeper intent to control or monopolize your energy. This manipulation leaves you feeling emotionally tethered, unable to establish healthy boundaries without fearing that you'll hurt or abandon them. The effects of constant draining extend beyond the relationship itself. When your energy is consistently depleted, it impacts every aspect of your life. You may find it harder to focus on work, engage in hobbies, or spend time with loved ones, as the emotional toll leaves you feeling too exhausted to participate fully in other areas. Physically, you may experience fatigue, headaches, or even illness, as chronic stress weakens your body. Mentally, you may struggle with feelings of irritability, resentment, or burnout, as the demands placed on you become overwhelming. Spiritually, you may feel disconnected from your sense of purpose or inner peace, as the draining dynamic pulls you away from what truly matters. What makes constant draining particularly challenging is that it often goes unnoticed until the effects are severe. Because the process is gradual, you might not realize how much of your energy has been consumed until you reach a point of exhaustion. By the time you recognize the pattern, you may feel trapped, unsure of how to address the issue without damaging the relationship. This delayed awareness is compounded by the fact that draining individuals often rely on the goodwill of others, making it difficult to confront them without feeling guilty or selfish. To protect yourself from constant draining, it's essential to set and maintain healthy boundaries. Recognize the signs of a draining dynamic early, and be willing to address them with honesty and compassion. Communicate your limits clearly, letting the person know what you can and cannot offer. For example, you might say, "I care about you, but I need time to recharge," or "I'm here to support you, but I can't take on everything for you." These statements reinforce your commitment to the relationship while also asserting your need for balance and self-care. It's also important to prioritize your own well-being. Make time for activities and relationships that replenish your energy, bringing joy, peace, and fulfillment into your life. Surround yourself with people who uplift and inspire you, those who pour into you as much as you pour into them. Cultivate practices that nourish your mind, body, and spirit, such as meditation, exercise, or creative pursuits. By investing in yourself, you build the resilience and clarity needed to navigate draining dynamics without losing sight of your own needs and values. Ultimately, constant draining is a reflection of imbalance. It highlights a relationship dynamic where the flow of energy is one-sided, leaving one person depleted while the other benefits. Addressing this imbalance requires awareness, courage, and a commitment to mutual respect. By recognizing the signs, setting boundaries, and prioritizing self-care, you can protect your energy, foster healthier relationships, and create a life that is more balanced, fulfilling, and aligned with your purpose. Destructive intent is a harmful force that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary interactions, yet it holds the power to create profound harm. Individuals with destructive intent may disguise their true motives, presenting themselves as well-meaning or even supportive. However, their actions often reveal a desire to undermine, control, or sabotage. This intent can come from envy, unresolved anger, a need for power, or a lack of empathy, and it manifests in behaviors aimed at weakening others or sowing discord. Unlike misunderstandings or disagreements that can be resolved with communication, destructive intent is purposeful and often insidious, making it difficult to identify and even harder to confront. Those with destructive intent frequently engage in subtle, manipulative tactics designed to erode a person's confidence and self-worth. They may criticize or undermine with veiled comments that appear innocuous but carry harmful undertones. For instance, they might make statements that seem like feedback but are intended to plant seeds of doubt, like "I'm not sure you're cut out for this," or "Are you really prepared for such a big responsibility?" These remarks seem to come from a place of concern, but their true aim is to destabilize, to make the other person question their abilities. Over time, this erosion of confidence can lead to self-doubt and a diminished sense of capability, leaving the person vulnerable to further manipulation. Destructive intent also manifests in the way people create or exploit conflict. Those with such intent may deliberately pit people against each other, spreading rumors, withholding information, or misrepresenting conversations to stir up tension. They might frame themselves as the neutral party or the peacemaker, appearing above the fray while secretly fueling discord. This approach allows them to avoid direct confrontation while still achieving their goal of weakening alliances, trust, and unity. By creating division, they can isolate individuals, making it easier to control or influence them. This manipulation leaves lasting damage, as the individuals affected may become distrustful, wary of each other, and less inclined to collaborate or communicate openly. Destructive intent is not always as overt as direct sabotage or manipulation. It can also take the form of passive resistance. Someone with this intent may subtly hinder the progress or success of others by failing to follow through on commitments, dragging their feet on important tasks, or neglecting their responsibilities. This passive resistance often comes under the guise of forgetfulness, busy schedules, or other excuses, but it has a tangible effect on those around them. By intentionally failing to contribute, they create delays, obstacles, and additional stress for others. This covert sabotage can be just as damaging as direct attacks, as it undermines progress and creates frustration, all while the person maintains plausible deniability. People with destructive intent may also engage in gaslighting, a psychological manipulation technique aimed at making others doubt their perception of reality. They may dismiss, deny, or twist facts to make others feel confused, disoriented, or irrational. This tactic is particularly effective when the person is in a position of trust or authority, as it exploits the natural inclination to believe those we respect or care for. Over time, gaslighting can lead to severe emotional and psychological distress, as the person on the receiving end begins to question their memory, judgment, and even their sanity. The aim of gaslighting is not only to control but also to weaken the individual's sense of self, rendering them more vulnerable to further manipulation. Those with destructive intent may also use people as tools for their own gain. They might feign interest in others, pretending to care or share common goals, all to elicit support, gather information, or gain influence. Once they have achieved their objective, they discard these people, leaving them feeling used or betrayed. This behavior is exploitative, as it reduces relationships to mere transactions, devoid of genuine care or respect. People who use others in this way often leave a trail of hurt and disillusionment, as those who trusted them realize they were valued only for what they could offer, not for who they are. Another common characteristic of destructive intent is the ability to mask envy or resentment as concern or helpfulness. They might offer advice that, rather than encouraging growth, subtly discourages progress. For example, someone might tell a friend pursuing a new opportunity, "Are you sure this is the right path? It seems risky." Although this might seem like a reasonable question, when it is consistently paired with other discouraging remarks, it becomes clear that the aim is to create doubt rather than support. This hidden envy is dangerous because it masquerades as friendship, making it difficult to recognize. Over time, it can lead people to second-guess their choices, stalling their progress and dampening their enthusiasm. Destructive intent often thrives in environments where accountability is low. In workplaces, families, or social circles where people rarely confront or address manipulative behavior, individuals with destructive motives can operate freely. They take advantage of others' reluctance to address conflict directly, using this avoidance to further their goals. This lack of accountability allows them to inflict harm without fear of repercussions, creating a toxic environment that affects everyone involved. Over time, this unchecked behavior erodes morale, trust, and mutual respect, creating an atmosphere of suspicion and defensiveness. People with destructive intent are often drawn to positions of influence, where they can maximize their impact on others. They may seek leadership roles, mentorship positions, or other areas of influence under the guise of helping others or contributing to a cause. Once in these positions, they can exert control, shape narratives, and influence decisions to suit their hidden agendas. This exploitation of authority is particularly harmful, as those under their influence may feel obligated to accept their guidance or follow their lead, unaware of the true intentions driving their actions. The effects of destructive intent can linger long after the person has left. Those who have been impacted by this behavior often struggle with feelings of betrayal, anger, and even guilt, wondering if they could have prevented the harm. They may experience self-doubt, anxiety, and a reduced ability to trust others, as the damage done undermines their sense of safety and stability in relationships. Recovering from these effects requires time, support, and often a process of rediscovering one's self-worth and autonomy. The scars left by destructive intent are deep, as they affect not only the individual but also the relationships, environments, and communities they touch. Recognizing destructive intent is challenging, as those who wield it often hide behind a facade of charm, helpfulness, or concern. However, by paying attention to consistent patterns of behavior such as manipulation, lack of accountability, divisive tactics, and exploitation, it becomes possible to identify these hidden motives. Setting boundaries, fostering open communication, and prioritizing relationships built on trust and respect are essential for protecting oneself from the damaging effects of destructive intent. By cultivating self-awareness and surrounding oneself with people who value integrity, it becomes easier to identify and resist the influence of those who seek to cause harm. Persistent fear is a paralyzing force that can steadily chip away at a person's sense of safety, stability, and control over their own life. It is a constant, nagging presence that undermines peace of mind, clouding judgment, and making it difficult to experience the world in a healthy, balanced way. Unlike occasional moments of fear that arise in response to real threats, persistent fear is often irrational, deeply ingrained, and disproportionate to the actual risks involved. It creates a constant state of alertness, forcing individuals to live in a heightened state of anxiety, always waiting for the next crisis to unfold, even when none is present. The nature of persistent fear is deceptive because it often operates quietly, behind the scenes, gradually taking root in the mind and emotions. What begins as a single fearful thought or experience can evolve into a pervasive sense of dread that colors every aspect of one's life. Over time, this fear becomes so ingrained that it feels like an inseparable part of the individual's identity, shaping their reactions, decisions, and perceptions. This cycle of fear can lead to avoidance behaviors, where people withdraw from situations or opportunities that might trigger their anxiety, even if there is no real danger. The fear itself becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, as it limits the person's ability to engage fully with life and pursue their goals. One of the most insidious aspects of persistent fear is its ability to distort reality. It often feeds on the imagination, amplifying worst-case scenarios and creating irrational thoughts that cloud objective reasoning. For example, someone might fear failure so intensely that they avoid taking any risks at all, even when the potential rewards outweigh the dangers. Similarly, someone might fear rejection so deeply that they choose isolation over the possibility of forming meaningful connections. In both cases, the individual's view of reality becomes skewed, as their fear prevents them from seeing opportunities or understanding that the risks they perceive may be exaggerated or unfounded. But persistent fear can also take on physical manifestations. It manifests in the body as tension, restlessness, heart palpitations, or even chronic conditions like insomnia or digestive issues. The mind and body are so interconnected that the constant state of fear triggers physiological responses that can leave individuals feeling exhausted, drained, or physically unwell. This is because fear activates the body's fight or flight response, even in situations where no actual danger exists. This chronic stress depletes the body's resources, leading to burnout, fatigue, and a reduced ability to cope with other challenges. Over time, the constant strain on both the mind and body can have lasting negative effects on overall health. The impact of persistent fear is not limited to the individual, it also affects the relationships around them. Fear often leads to defensive behaviors as individuals become hypervigilant, controlling, or overly protective in an attempt to manage their anxiety. For example, someone who fears being abandoned might become possessive in relationships, constantly seeking reassurance or testing the loyalty of others. Similarly, someone who fears failure might become perfectionistic or overly critical, pushing others away in an attempt to maintain control. In either case, persistent fear creates barriers between people, making it harder to experience genuine connection, understanding, and intimacy. The fear-driven behaviors can strain relationships, leaving both the person affected and those around them feeling isolated or disconnected. Persistent fear is also often linked to a lack of trust, both in oneself and in others. When someone is consumed by fear, they begin to question their own abilities and judgments, believing that they are not strong enough, smart enough, or capable enough to handle life's challenges. This lack of self-trust feeds the cycle of fear, making it harder to break free from its grip. Additionally, persistent fear can make it difficult to trust others, as the individual becomes overly suspicious or guarded. They may assume that others are out to hurt them, abandon them, or fail them, even in the absence of any evidence to support these beliefs. This lack of trust can make it difficult to form healthy, supportive relationships and can leave the individual feeling alone in their struggles. Fear is often rooted in past experiences, particularly traumatic or difficult events that left a lasting emotional impact. A person who has experienced betrayal, loss, or abuse may carry that fear into future situations, believing that history will repeat itself. Even when faced with entirely new circumstances, the emotional scars from the past continue to shape their reactions. This type of fear, rooted in past wounds, can make it difficult to move forward, as the individual may be trapped in a cycle of reliving old pain and projecting it onto new experiences. They may be unable to fully embrace the present or future, because they are constantly haunted by the shadows of what they've endured. Persistent fear also often results in a reluctance to change or take risks. Fear of the unknown can prevent individuals from stepping out of their comfort zones, even when those risks hold the potential for personal growth or new opportunities. This fear of change can manifest in many ways, such as staying in unhealthy situations, avoiding career changes, or refusing to try new things because of a deep-rooted belief that things will go wrong. This resistance to change limits personal growth, keeping the individual stuck in patterns of thought and behavior that reinforce their fear. The more they avoid confronting their fear, the more it solidifies its hold on them, making it harder to break free. In some cases, persistent fear becomes a learned behavior passed down through generations or reinforced by cultural or societal norms. People who grew up in environments where fear was a dominant force, whether from overprotective parents, societal pressure, or external threats, may internalize this fear as a survival mechanism. This learned fear becomes part of their worldview, shaping how they perceive the world and interact with others. They may grow up believing that the world is a dangerous place where they must always be on guard, or that they are unworthy of happiness, success, or love. This pattern of thought can be difficult to break, especially if it has been ingrained over many years. At its core, persistent fear is about a lack of control, a fear that one is unable to manage the circumstances of their own life. It is the belief that forces outside of oneself are more powerful than their ability to cope. This sense of helplessness feeds the fear, making it harder to take proactive steps to confront and manage it. The fear of failure, rejection, or loss becomes magnified because the individual feels powerless in the face of these potential outcomes. This powerlessness can lead to feelings of hopelessness, depression, and a diminished sense of self-worth. To overcome persistent fear, it is essential to reclaim a sense of control, both mentally and emotionally. This starts with acknowledging the fear, understanding its origins, and recognizing that it does not have to dictate one's life. It requires developing a mindset of resilience, where fear is seen as a challenge to be managed, not a force that must be avoided. This can be done through self-reflection therapy, meditation, or other tools that help a person understand the roots of their fear and build coping strategies. Overcoming persistent fear also involves learning to trust oneself, to believe that, no matter the outcome, one has the strength and resourcefulness to handle what comes their way. Furthermore, surrounding oneself with supportive, understanding people who help reinforce a sense of safety and confidence can be instrumental in overcoming persistent fear. By gradually facing fears in small steps, one can build confidence and reduce the grip of fear over time. This process may involve taking risks, embracing the unknown, and trusting that each step forward is part of a larger journey of personal growth. Persistent fear can be a powerful force that limits potential, disrupts relationships, and undermines peace of mind. However, it is not an insurmountable obstacle. With awareness, effort, and support, it is possible to break free from its grasp, reclaim control, and live a life not dominated by fear, but guided by courage, confidence, and clarity. In conclusion, the forces that quietly drain our spirit, cloud our vision, and disrupt our peace are not always external. They often stem from the relationships, influences, and thoughts we allow to take root in our lives. Whether it's the subtle manipulation of deceptive words, the weight of constant draining, or the suffocating grip of persistent fear, these elements left unchecked can steer us away from our purpose and potential. Recognizing their presence is the first step toward reclaiming our freedom, our energy, and our sense of self. We are not meant to live in fear, exhaustion, or confusion. Instead, we are designed to walk in clarity, confidence, and purpose. But to do so, we must have the courage to confront the unseen forces at work in our lives, to set boundaries, and to protect the space where our peace and purpose reside. By embracing self-awareness, seeking support from those who uplift and inspire, and cultivating trust in our own strength, we can break free from destructive influences and live fully aligned with our true potential. Ultimately, we are called to be vigilant stewards of our hearts and minds, discerning the voices we listen to and the relationships we nurture. When we choose courage over fear, truth over deception, and growth over stagnation, we not only safeguard our lives from harm, but also open the door to a life of greater fulfillment, joy, and impact. Let us therefore walk with intention, guided by wisdom and unwavering faith, as we pursue the lives we are destined to lead.